Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. Welcome to the Tempe Elementary School District Regular Governing Board meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1.04, approval of agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Seeing none, motion passes. 2.01, approval modification of minutes from the November 19th, 2025 Governing Board meeting with study session. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes from the governing board meeting of November 19th with the study session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Open for discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Seeing none, motion passes. Item 3, seeing no negatives. What are you seeing? No nays. It's not seeing none. Sorry. Item 3.01, approval of a consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion passes. I'd like to thank our community member who donated $2,500 to Connolly Middle School Band, to Rack Room Shoes for their donation of more than $5,000 to Mosley Middle School, and to Chase Construction's generous donation of food boxes and grocery gift cards. Item 4.01, celebrate excellence. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Dr. Driscoll.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight I have a few items to celebrate. Student council members from Thew Elementary carried on the annual tradition of decorating the holiday tree at Landings Credit Union this morning. This year marks the 25th time Tempe Elementary students have decorated the Landings lobby tree. Decorations represented this year's theme, Arizona history and the desert, and were made by the entire Thew student body. There we go. Nevitt fifth graders visited South Mountain Community College recently to explore future college and career opportunities. Students received a guided tour of the campus while also getting a hands-on look at the college's carpentry and electrical programs. Once again, Tempe Diablos partner with volunteers from SRP to provide turkey dinners to 300 Tempe elementary families in the Guadalupe neighborhood. Food boxes included all the fixings for a special holiday meal, including a turkey, fresh produce, and an assortment of dry goods. This will conclude my celebrated excellence for this evening, but please enjoy this video highlighting the impact of this event.
So this is our 5th year, 2025, and this year it's exciting. We've been able to partner with SRP as a title sponsor to be able to bring 300 families a Thanksgiving meal. Someone says, why do we do it? What's the purpose? The purpose is to make our community better.
Well, Frank is an amazing community. Guadalupe itself is just wonderful, and I'm just so happy that I see that and they want to get back and help out our families, especially at this time of year, and I feel blessed to be a part of this community.
Happy Thanksgiving.
This is 4 years in a row that we have had this opportunity for families to come, and it's become a tradition, and it's amazing. Today, when you see the families, they are so happy. They are grateful. They're wishing you happy holidays. Times are tough, and so it's been really good to see as many community members out just happy and grateful. The Diablos are giving out products from United Food Bank that they have purchased for this community.
Families can come drive up and get a turkey, a box of dry goods, potatoes, apples, vegetables, fruits, so they can enjoy a Thanksgiving meal for free.
When it comes to society, we have to be able to step up and try and make one another better. Help people be propped up, whether it's with food security, whether it's with knowledge, whatever the case may be. This is a great opportunity to be able to do our mission as the Tempe Diablos.
I would love to thank Frank Elementary for hosting this event with Diablos and SRP. And just in general, we are blessed in this district to have the support of the community.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Here you go. Let me get your door for you.
Thank you. Whew, gosh, things like that are just really special, and it's something that Tempe Elementary gets to be blessed with, and I'm just so grateful. Okay, item 5.01, presentation, 95% group curriculum update. I'd like to introduce our Chief Academic Officer, Katie Moe, who will share this update. And I like your headband.
Thank you, President Ewers. Thank you, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll. I am so excited to be here to be able to talk about 95% group and the Phonics Core program and the other curriculum elements that we have implemented starting last year with a soft launch and this year with our hitting the ground running with Fidelity. As always, we like to align everything to our strategic plan goal. This was wrapped around in 2.1. One of our beacon strategic plan goals was to really refine that district curriculum, and that is where the 95% group adoption came from. And I am going to review some of that. I'm also going to review with you guys our Tier 1 curriculum, what that is, what we're using for Tier 2, and so that you can understand how we're supporting teachers and what the implementation rollout looks like. Sorry, I was gonna say last year, but it was about 2.5 years ago, we had done a curriculum audit. It's probably 3 years now. We've done a curriculum audit, and we began the work of blueprint and identifying what we need to best serve our students here in TD3. And that led us to realize that our core program for reading and literacy instruction was lacking. And we actually got a notification that our Journeys Phonics program was no longer state board approved. And the Arizona has a list of approved programs, and they work through that list, and you have to submit your literacy plan to the state. We do that every single year. And if you are on the no list, you have to rectify that within 1 calendar year. And so we began the work of analyzing and assessing what needs we had, and we came to realize that with the 5 tenets of reading, that we had some really good work on fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, but our phonemic awareness and phonics was severely lacking. And those are some of the very most important tenets of literacy instruction. And so because we have pretty strict laws here for the K-3 Move On When reading, that all of our students by 3rd grade need to be proficient in reading based on Arizona statute, we needed to make sure that we had an approved state vendor. And so we began the procedure of doing an RFP. I presented to you guys in July of 2023, or 2024, I believe. But what we have really done was we wrote this based on the needs and the deficiencies that we had. We put out that RFP, and 470 vendors got it, 10 returned, and then we went through that whole RFP process where we had an evaluation committee made up of district staff, school staff, community members, and then we opened it up to the public at multiple locations, multiple school sites here at Sanchez and also at Bustos, and we welcome people to come and evaluate and review the top 2 choices. Those 2 choices were 95% Group and Wilson Training Corporation, otherwise known as Fundations. So after meeting and reviewing all of the data, the committee and the evaluators, which were the people that came in to view, identified that PCP, the Phonics Core program, was best to meet our needs. We did a soft rollout of that in November of 2024 because it was mid-year. This was a virtual training, and we asked people to begin to attempt to implement this with that virtual training, try it out with their students, get used to the workbooks, get used to the scripts, and identify those different components. We have multiple products that we implemented at that time. We have the Tier 1, which is for K-3 classrooms and our specialized classrooms for special ed. So they're implementing the Phonics Core program, which is 30 minutes of explicit instruction. And I will go through what that involves in just a minute here. And then this year we implemented through 4th through 8th grade, the multi-syllabic routine cards, which is a 5 to 10 minute routine that we've asked all teachers to complete. We ask about 5 minutes, and it's about 36 lessons of content, and we're hoping to build that foundation. And then this year we rolled out the Phonics Lesson Library, which has been known in the community for a very long time as a wonderful intervention program. And our literacy specialists and resource teachers are utilizing that based on specific skill and need for those students in Tier 2. So they need a double dose of support. And I will talk about what that looks like for Tier 2 in just a moment here. So this is how the program is set up. We've been very lucky in TD3 because in many different districts, we've got different levels and different products for different groups of people. So what I mean by that is sometimes you'll have a group of resource students and they have one product, and then you have an ELD group of students and they have another product because that program seems cool, and then they have another product for intervention, and then, all right, K1, we're gonna use this product and kind of bandage it together. But in TD3, we've been able to be extremely strategic and roll out something that's uniform so our students are able to have that common language, that common vocabulary. It doesn't matter what type of intervention they're getting, if they're getting pull-out, if they're getting additional support, the teachers are all speaking the same language. And by that I mean they're using the same scripts, they're using the same sequence so that students are getting a cohesive curriculum, doesn't matter what type of intervention or who's pulling them out. And that's been a really, really beneficial component for our students and teachers. So teachers received, again, in last year, November time, and then again, we did a refresh. Every year we'll do a refresh for consumable materials, but we also just purchased for all resource teachers and specialized programs additional materials so they would not have to share. And what I mean by share is for our specialized classrooms, sometimes in a SEALS classroom, we have a multi-age group of students, and they all have different levels and needs. And we gave them all of the products so that they could vary it based on those specific students in their classroom, and they would not need to share with someone else. So we were able to identify funding to roll that out, which has been really wonderful for those teachers. We've got chip kits, which are the manipulatives to help students create the sounds. They have practice workbooks, and every student has their own practice workbook that teachers are able to monitor and ensure that they're following, and that they are, teachers are able to do error analysis on those workbooks. We also have sound cards and posters, and all teachers receive these materials to be explicitly used during instruction. And I'll talk about the components of instruction, but when they use those sound cards, they have explicit directions in their script of when they're supposed to use those based on research. So this program is grounded in the science of reading. Susan Hall, who's a beacon in the literacy world, is the founder of this program. And like I said before, this replaced our whole group phonics components that was inadequate, that was in the Journeys program that we had been utilizing before, that had ended up on that ADE do not use list. It was actually in a red color. And so that is what that replaced. It did not replace any of the other components. It didn't replace comprehension. It replaced explicit phonics and phonemic awareness instruction. We also have the digital component, so all of the teacher slides are pre-created, so teachers are able to utilize those and not prep. One of the beautiful things is that this program, because it's laid out so nicely, allows a teacher to prepare for 10 minutes the day before the lesson, so there's little to zero prep. We ask that a teacher review the script the day before so they're not reading it for the first time when they're doing the instruction, and they're able to understand what's coming next and anticipate those needs. I'm gonna break down just quickly what they are, what each grade level is for the core program. So kindergarten has 25 lessons, 5 days a lesson. We start a little bit later to get our kindergartners in line, understanding how school works and all of those components, and get them going. And it's laid out with these components of the science. For first grade, we have 30 lessons, 5 days a week. Again, the request is that teachers use 30 minutes of instruction, and that is outlined in the script. And I'm gonna talk a little bit later about our recommendations for that, but one big thing is that we ask that teachers adhere to that 30 minutes. It could be very easy for a teacher to spend 1 hour on this, and our students don't have the stamina necessarily or the attention span to continue going, and it's not best practice. And so we've either provided timers or showed our teachers how to use the timers on their interactive flat panels to implement that. And so when that timer goes off, they move on to the next component so that they're not getting their students fatigued on the learning. Second grade is very similar. We do add in on first grade and second grade the spelling list, and we have done an articulation document now that we're incorporating more of the high frequency words on those spelling lists so that students are explicitly making the connection of those high frequency words to the skills that are being taught in that lesson. And so we've added that component so that there's continuity between the FastBridge, which is our assessment platform, and the 95% core so that teachers can see that correlation and not feel that they're two totally separate components. Third grade, we continue on. We go more into the passage and comprehension section. There are fluency passages involved in all of these components and all of these grade levels, but we also add in those components within the blueprint, our curriculum as established. So we've really worked on getting additional resources for teachers and students to be able to practice outside of this, but it does come with all of those components based on the skill. The multisyllabic routines, we made this decision this year based on our data. And so our data was showing that our students, because we haven't had a foundational reading program that was explicit in nature and had the depth and complexity that we needed, that our students in our upper grades were having a really hard time tackling multisyllabic words and attacking larger texts, more scientific texts. So they were having a hard time comprehending in science, social studies, and other content areas. And so we implemented this in the hopes that we would be able to slowly wean off as we build our foundational reading and our students trickle up, that they would have those skills and be able to pass through. And so we ask for 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the most. We've trained our teachers on how to do this. They do it for the first 5 minutes of their literacy in 4th through 8th grade, so our middle school students are also doing it. In some of our cases, like McCamey, that might not be appropriate, so we've adopted Morpheme Magic that really talks about the Greek and Latin roots and goes down that road, so they're getting something that would pertain to what they're working on. We also have the online portal, which is an amazing wealth of resource, and every teacher in our district has access to most of the lessons. The core products for K1, 2, 3, those are by license, but the phonics lesson library is accessible to everyone, which is a really wonderful feature. So this year, because last year was our soft rollout and we had it virtual training, which was difficult in the middle of the year, having somebody face-to-face with you is so much better when we're trying to roll out new materials. You're able to touch the things, you're able to talk to somebody, you're able to see it in action. And so we were able to train all of our K3 staff this year before school started. That Tuesday before school started, we had them all in person. We were able to do that. We trained our self-contained teachers as well. And then we brought in all of our resource teachers and our literacy specialists. Our literacy specialists are our very highly skilled teachers that are working with our most needy students based on skill deficit. And so they are doing pull-out with students all day long, and they were trained in the phonics lesson library. And then the 4th through 8th grade teachers were trained in multisyllabic routine cards, and that was done during 2 of our professional learning days on a Friday afternoon. So we did one in the end of July and then one in August for those 2 days, and they spent half of the 2-hour session learning and practicing those routines. And then we also trained our teaching and learning coaches on those products so that they were able to support and help them practice if they needed the additional practice. Like I've been saying, the phonics lesson library is something that we've implemented with the literacy specialists. The literacy specialists have a dual role, or dual evaluator, I should say. They are overseen by the project managers of literacy and the principals. And we use the diagnostic data. We have a screener that we utilize. So what it does is it assesses all of our students. If there were indicated that there was some area of weakness on our FastBridge assessment, which is our universal screener that every child gets, we would give them the diagnostic, and then we would drill down to what exact skill they're missing. And then we would go in our scope and sequence, identify the lowest skill that they need to build their understanding of literacy. And then we would give them 10 days of explicit instruction in a small group. And that is about 30 minutes. It ends up being about 20. You only need about 20 for the lesson, but with transitions and things, we have those students. And then at the end of the 10-day cycle, we would do a reevaluation. And then our goal is to cycle through as many students as we can, and hoping that those students then proceed to the next stop skill that they would need to be successful in reading. And hopefully we've identified if there's 1 or 2 gaps, we can get them moving, and then they're back on track and they're back with their students or with their peers and not needing that additional pullout. This is in addition to the 30 minutes that they spend doing that explicit instruction with their classmates. And then again, we've got binders. It's kind of old school. We also have digital components. We have physical binders that have all the practice. They have chip kits. They have manipulatives. And most of our literacy specialists see 80 students a week, which is great, 10 to 12 groups often a day, which is wonderful. And we're really trying to implement this program so that they can see as many students as possible. Like I said before, this has 32 lessons, but we also have the basic, advanced, and multisyllabic. So we have purchased different phonics lesson libraries for different needs. So our basic level is a K1 level. So that's the very foundational level. And so we have purchased all of the materials for our teachers, for our literacy specialists to implement this tier 2. And then multisyllabic, we're implementing at the middle school, but sometimes advanced level at the middle school as well, because we have found that some of our students have some very severe gaps, and we're really working to fill those so that they can be successful moving forward. We also have our project managers of literacy, and we've split it up. We're trying this out. We said we can pivot at any time. So we've split the district into K1, and that's Nicole Cumberledge. And then 2nd and 3rd grade, Kaylee Flora. They're in classrooms every single day, direct coaching, whisper coaching, observing, providing feedback. They provide direct feedback every single day to teachers. They also meet with principals, and based on their data, they have a monthly goal. They review the data and the progress with the principal and keep that relationship going. One of Dr. Driscoll's big goals was for our principals to know what to look for in literacy instruction in the classroom. And these 2 women have been extremely successful in helping our leaders build that sustainability so that they can continue carrying on the coaching and all of those look-fors. As I said before, the expectations, we have a manual. It's a binder. We tell people, we know that being creative and going off script could be fun, but the science of reading and the research that's behind this shows that when you implement this with fidelity the way that it was intended, you will see results. And so we ask that they provide their own slide, or that they use the provided slide decks. They don't create their own. Sometimes they want to cutesy them up. We ask, please use what's provided, because the way that those letters are formed, all of the graphics are there intentionally. Follow the scripts as written. This has been a big one for us. We have seen a lot of people go off script, and sometimes it's not that big of a deal. Sometimes it changes the way things sound. Some of the intentionality behind it, and then also it adds a lot of extra time. So when you start to time, like it's 2 minutes for this section, and you add in a whole bunch of extra language, you're getting less and less practice time during that 2 minutes. So we ask people, you be perky, you be excited, and the kids love it. They really get into it, but try not to add as many of your own anecdotes in there, because that happens a lot, and that's a lot of feedback. Teachers have a really hard time with that. You want me just to read this? Yep, just read those 3 sentences, model it for students, and then they will model it back. And then the trim content, don't cut routines. What I mean by that is, if you are only doing 30 minutes, because we have either a 90 or 120 minute reading block, if you only spend 30 minutes and you go through an entire section, and let's say you add in a lot of your own language, you might spend half of your 30 minutes on 1 or 2 sections and not get through all of the components. And so we ask people to set a timer so that they could complete whatever you get done in those 2 minutes and move on to the next, so that you get all of the routine in there, but maybe not all of the content. And what we say to do then with that additional content, if you didn't get through it, if you're really perky, you can get it done, but it's not required. We'd ask that you could use those during your small group times and use those for extra practice, because there's more than enough in every single section for people to utilize those materials. We also ask that they correct student errors on the spot. So if we hear or see someone doing something incorrectly, we're asking that they're monitoring all the time with the workbooks. We also have an end of unit evaluation that we're making sure that we correct that on the spot so that students can practice right in place, which is the same idea that our project managers do. They try to correct on the spot because they don't want to wait until they can meet with the teacher in 2 weeks, because that means 2 weeks have gone by and a teacher might be doing something incorrectly. And so we want to make sure that we are correcting on the spot and that we're reviewing those student workbooks. So the workbooks are there for us to help manage and utilize and practice. One of the great things about this product, though, is that there's not planning and there's not paperwork. So there's not things that they need to be recording, and we're asking people to monitor in live time, do that error analysis on the spot, but they're not creating grade books and doing a whole bunch of additional work outside of that 10 minutes of prep that we ask them to utilize the day prior to their implementation. And that's it. What questions?
Ms. Windsor?
Thank you, President Ewers, and thank you, Ms. Katie Moe, for that. I really appreciate all the information you put in there. So you've covered many of my questions, so thank you for that. But I do want to ask, you did say no paperwork, right?
Yes.
There's no documentation, so I'm assuming we're tracking students' progress on our benchmark testing?
Yep, and our Fast Bridge. So we have progress monitoring every 3 weeks. We ask once a month, every 2 weeks for students that maybe have a high need, but we ask about once a month to do Fast Bridge, and that's done on the computer. Okay. So it's an automated test. The teachers are listening and they are clicking the errors as they go through and listening, or the students are making the selection, but it's not paper pencil where it used to be like a Dibbles where you have a little booklet and all of that. But yes.
And is that Fast Bridge assessment, the one time a month, is that in addition to what we've done in the past? Or is that a consistent thing that we've done for a while?
We have not done that. We used to do Acadience.
Yeah.
So Acadience was the previous test. We now have our suite of assessment, which our benchmark is in there, and that's our DNA, where we have all of our 3 times a year benchmark, our pre, our mid, and our post. It's under the same assessment umbrella, just a different kind of branch of it. And it is in replacement of Acadience and creates a level for a student, if you will, and kind of puts them into a category of risk. So we're able to see there what skills we need to maybe work on, or if we need to go deeper and do a diagnostic assessment on that student. Are they on the trajectory to be at grade level, or are we worried about them? And do we need to kind of pop in and pull them out for additional support?
So that seems to track with how AASA puts kids in comparable categories, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and they have those risk levels for all. It's just similar, different colors.
Right.
For whatever reason, on DNA, it's so great because it's like red, blue, green. And for Fast Bridge, it's dark purple, dark pink, light pink. So it just, adds a little extra flair to it. But yes, it's the same idea with categories.
Okay. And so I would assume that we don't have any comparable data since Fast Bridge is new.
Correct,
Sure. Okay.
correct.
Have you heard teacher feedback yet?
We have. Now, I will tell you that I was asking the project managers to, because we hear so many positive things, right? And they said, I don't know that anyone would say anything negative to me, is what they said. So they love the script and that they have a material to pull from that it's not that they don't have to think about, but they know will work. And they have seen so much progress in their students, and it has been really rewarding to see that very much happen, especially in the kindergarten level right now. We're seeing a lot of growth with our students, and we've got some students reading, and they're reading words in kindergarten faster than they ever have.
Okay, so with a soft rollout, did we see big gains in that very first, would it have been like one semester of use?
It would have been one semester, the second semester. The thing is, and that this is so tough, was we had started, so before we adopted in that November, we had realigned all of our Journeys materials to follow the science of reading, because the way that Journeys was laid out, it did not follow the research any longer. And so we had to move the phonics curriculum into a different order. Then we adopted 95, and we said you can choose. You can either start at the beginning, or you can go halfway through and identify where you would be in the science of reading scope and sequence and start there. So we didn't have a uniform starting place, which makes it really difficult. Because some people decided, I'm gonna start on lesson 14, and some people are like, we're just gonna start from the very beginning and start from scratch.
So really, this is your baseline year?
This is our baseline year.
Okay. My last question is about students who are at different reading levels, specifically above their class. So how are they supported? Or do they do the same 30 minutes of direct instruction? Or are there options for differentiation for them?
So right now, and I don't want to ever paint with a broad brush, when we're looking at our data right now, we're building that foundation. And so for K-3, research shows that even if we have advanced students that are above grade level, or they have a very keen eye and high frequency words in their reading, if they don't understand how to decode and encode and follow the rules of phonics, they will have something called the fourth grade slump. And in that fourth grade slump is when they start to have a little bit more trouble with decoding multisyllabic words, because they never learn those rules. And so we want to make sure that each of our students gets that foundational layer. We do have differentiation opportunities of pairing, of writing sentences with the words that they wrote and created. So we do have differentiation options. Our hope is that once we get going, especially after this big first year, that our second grade, our third grade, that we'll be able to differentiate more. But because we didn't have the explicit instruction in place for multiple years, we're not seeing that extreme progress, if that makes sense.
It does. And it tracks with what I see at the high school level when we have honor students come in and they're unable to read out loud because of the growth in vocabulary.
Yes.
And I appreciate that spelling is going along with this, because I know we abandoned spelling for a while, which, I mean, as a high school teacher, I'm infuriated about
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Because so many kids are like, oh, I can just autocorrect. I'm like, yeah, but you're writing the essay with the pen and paper, so
Yep.
that's problematic. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for all of the preparation and the presentation.
Yes. I also want to say that we also really focus on handwriting and letter formation, which I know is a big thing that we worry about with students. And so that is a built-in component of Core 95. So they get that explicit handwriting instruction every single day as well. And then to the spelling point, they're all the spelling words are aligned to the rules that they're learning and the skills. And so they're able to directly apply that every single week.
Do you happen to know if Getz is still using the writing without tears, or?
They are.
Okay.
They are. And I actually just spoke to Carolyn about that. I asked her, let's look at what the correlation is, because they've been using that for a very long time. And so talking about, can we look into doing morphemes for littles, or some different programs that are part of the 95 suite, so that they're getting that trajectory all the way through.
Okay. And if you have time, would you mind forwarding me the research on the fourth grade slump?
Yes,
I would appreciate that.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Lemon?
Thank you. I enjoyed going through this and then hearing you go through it. Really made a difference. And to Ms. Windsor's comment about spelling, you know, I've abandoned it for 70 years.
Yeah, ditto.
But the last comment, review the student workbooks to address errors. Is that done while the student's there, and so the teacher's walking around and pointing things out and they're correcting it there?
That's happening right on the spot, because we know that minute by minute, just-in-time instruction is when that learning can happen, and that students can correct right then instead of coming back tomorrow or another day, and then getting back into that learning place that they were in. And so we ask our teachers, and when we don't see our teachers doing that, we've been doing the whisper coaching of make sure that we're looking for errors, because we want to make sure that we're correcting on demand.
And in the workbooks, are we looking at writing and cursive or whatever we're teaching?
Yep, absolutely. Letter formation, when we have our little lines on the paper, all of those components, all of that is factored in. And the teachers are to help correct on the spot if they can, or pull back students into a small group and do a flexible group to adjust those errors right then and there.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. You're going to help me at the dinner table with my retired teacher family. They tend to tell me that all problems would go away if we just got back to phonics. So I wish that was the case. I was like, oh, amen. Let's just go back to phonics and our problems would go away. But I'm so excited that I actually have this to take back to them and they can listen to this, because you are definitely at a higher skill level on this than I could ever imagine. And I'm so grateful because you're compassionate about it. A couple questions I have is, well, the spelling test being optional. We've already covered that. It makes my head explode, but I'm old school, so we'll just go at that. When do you expect to see improvement? What do you feel comfortable in that being?
I say the end of this year. So where we're at right now is we've taken our FastBridge assessment and we've analyzed row by row when the skills are taught in 95%. And so what we've noticed is when our screening's happening, sometimes the words or the skill that's being brought up on the test, early on in the test, isn't taught until lesson 21, 22, and they're on lesson 11, lesson 12. So there are skills that are coming up that they're being assessed on that they have not been introduced to. And so the hope is by the end of the year, once they have that full cycle, we have multiple schools, 3 or 4 schools that have a goal of 100% of their kindergartners reading. And they have a plan to get there. I'll share it with Dr. Driscoll, and he can share it with you. And they have an explicit plan. The coaches, the principals, we've all sat down, and they have an outline of how they're going to get that done. So yes.
Give me a rah-rah for that. New teachers who come on, how will they be educated on the system? Will it also be during orientation prior to school? And then if we have current students who end up with a long-term sub, do you have the literacy coaches that go in, or how do they keep consistent in that classroom? Because this is some heavy lifting.
Yes, we are really lucky in that we have people with experience being facilitators for 95% group. And so they were able to provide that training and will continue to do so for the NSO. So before school starts, everyone will get explicitly trained. Right now, we have been providing with literacy, the literacy specialists and the teaching and learning coaches are all trained in these programs to support a long-term sub with that script and with that building out. But you bring up a great point that maybe we need to build in a way to get them formally trained so that they have that expertise.
Because I'm a little nervous, because we do have some people who come in mid-year or baby's born or something like that, and there's months that I can, and just throw a substitute into it and be like, what is this could
Yes.
be? Okay.
Yes.
And so is it also on Blueprint?
It's all over Blueprint. We have a whole section in Blueprint.
Okay.
We also have additional materials aligned for small group instruction. So if you run out of materials, let's say, like I said, you have 30 minutes and you got through all of it, all of the material, you don't have anything left to do during your small group, we have skills aligned and materials, small group instruction, station work aligned to the 95% group so that students can continue that practice while teachers are pulling their small groups.
Great. So that was my next question, is how do teachers get 25 different kids in a 30 to 60 minute time, analyzed, helped, Are we asking a bit much, or have you seen the flow?
yes,
I'm a visual person, so I'm not, it's making me nervous.
I know, we've seen the flow, we have magic happening. I'll give you, what we just rolled this out at a PD to show people another example of what it could look like. We had a teacher practicing a skill, walking around, she has a classroom cash thing that she passes out. And on there she wrote, it was around Halloween time, so she had little stamps. So there was candy corn, cats, pumpkins. And as she's walking around and she noticed a specific skill that students were not getting, she would, and she was praising the students and they were doing a great job. We got this on film, by the way. So they're praising the students and doing all of that. And then she's noticing the skill. Oh, these 7 kids are missing that skill. And then, so then when she was done with the explicit teaching, she said, all right, if you have a candy corn on your MOBUC, then come on back. And then she'd work with them on the spot, 15, 20 minutes, maybe less, whatever's needed, send them back. And then she would say, okay, now if you have a pumpkin, and so she would be able to keep those flexible groups moving based on the skill. And then the students are not able to know, like, I'm in the Bluebirds, I'm in the Red Robins kind of a thing all the time. So it's a constant flexible movement of assessment. So we call that just-in-time instruction.
I should try that at my office. Anywho, okay, so that got rid of that. New teachers substitution going through during the time when the teacher is evaluating or helping to improve the skill set of those who need it. The others are working on their things. Is it all on computer? I saw that we have some workbooks. Those are physical, right? They're writing, they're, okay.
We have physical. We also have, I'm going to do a plug for our new product that Dr. Driscoll's vision has come to life in, AI Play Lab, the new partnership that we have with this nonprofit company. We have a new app that we're about to roll out that, well, I'll first back up and say that in Blueprint, we have all station materials, small group, and what students can be doing independently based on that skill. So if we're working on blends, then we have the skill ready to go. People can print off the slides, they can print off the materials, they can make stations or independent practice. But now with the addition of AI Play Lab, we have the ability to have our learning progression, our skill inputted, and then we have it prompted to ask, would you like small group, or would you like independent practice work for students who are waiting to meet in the small group? And the teacher can say yes, and then it will pull from Blueprint and auto-generate for them additional support materials to accompany the lesson so that they have it ready to go.
And these videos that you've made and such are to put on Blueprint, right? To show the teachers doing the best teachers doing the best practices.
Yes, we actually just rolled that out at our last district PD on the 21st, November 21st, and we actually had a middle school teacher doing it as well, so that we couldn't have anybody say like, oh, that was a 3rd grade classroom, that wouldn't work for me. So we actually had an 8th grade ELA teacher utilizing the same strategies, just with different content, and we rolled that out to our teachers to give them strategies to be able to do this, yes.
Awesome. Okay, this is exciting. I know I'm kind of a nerd, but keep going, get it done. Are there other districts around that are using the same system?
95% yes, everything else no.
Boom,
So.
Thank you. Okay, I get all excited. Where are we? Item 5.02. Presentation, design overview of Connolly Middle School and Curry Elementary School rebuild. And I'd like to introduce Katrina Leach from DLR Group, as well as Brian Ham and Jason Santer from Core Construction, who will share their updates. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, President Ewers, board members. Oh, I have to put. Now I'm trying. Better? Good evening, President Ewers, board members, Dr. Driscoll. I'm really happy to be here to share more about the Connolly and Curry rebuild. A lot of what you're going to see in my presentation today is very similar to last month. We haven't really developed additional materials. Our documents are in plan review right now, but I do want to hit different highlights today. So hopefully I can give more context and more information about the projects and answer any other questions you might have before turning it over to Core for their GMP conversation. I always like to orient everyone, make sure everyone's on the same page with the new layout since it is different. Our fields are in the center of the campus with Connolly on the east side off of River and Concordia with a new entrance off of Concordia, and Curry is on our west side, west of the fields with their new entrance and parking lot off of Country Club and Meadow. I also know with the heavy rains of late, it's on everyone's mind about water management. So I do want to touch while we're looking at the site plan about how we are redesigning the entire site. And I want to give you assurance that the civil design does have proper drainage, that all the walkways are sloped away from the building. And so that has been accounted for in the new design. Also, just at the building level, our windows are all aluminum frame systems, so there is an internal drainage system that if water did get in the frame, it would be directed back out of the building. Our doors are all under either either under cover with balconies and canopies or in alcove conditions so that they have coverage as well. So while we do have a lot of design items that cover and prevent any water infiltration for future storms that we have seen recently, the other part of it is that all of our designs and construction have an industry standard 2-year warranty. So Core has been a great partner in the constructability of the design. They're gonna obviously build it now, and then there'll be 2-year warranty. So 1 year and a 2-year walk to check on anything that might have a manufacturer imperfection or an installation challenge that can be corrected before that 2 years is up. So that gives that time frame for a lot of that corrective opportunity. And then we're gonna go first into our Curry design. Again, these are the exterior renderings that you have seen previously. I know there was a lot of conversation last time about the utilization of glass in the design, so I just want to bring up one more time that we didn't intentionally use glass strategically, obviously to bring daylight in. It's good for educational environments and that factor, but also following the CPTED approach. A CPTED is that crime prevention through environmental design. It's utilized by first responders, policemen, when it comes to proactive design features that can also help for safety and security. And with glass, it's encouraged in that practice for the visibility of it so that you see clear sight lines, you have natural surveillance. It also psychologically provides positive behavior. So in the commercial world, it deters vandalism and breaking and entering. In the school world, it also can deter bullying, right? And things like that when you have the impression that someone can see you doing it. So we did use it strategically, trying to maximize the glass on the secure school side and not on any of the unsecure locations. Moving on into some of the interiors. Again, these are some repeat images with the top right there showing the classroom cohort with the flexibility in mind of having the opportunity for flex spaces between classrooms so they can either obviously have their educational environment in the classroom or extend it into flex areas for more opportunities. That bottom left there being the main lobby where we do have bullet resistant glass, the one point of entry for the campus. We also have the buzzed entry so that people cannot just walk directly in. And then the bottom right there is the learning commons, that's what we're calling our library. You're not seeing it with any furniture layouts here, but you are seeing it with some of the built-in features of having small groups and instructional space. Focusing a little bit more on the classroom cohorts and what that looks like. Our classrooms at Curry are arranged around a flex area, so there's 4 classrooms per 1 flex area and collaboration space. I just want to point out one thing that is a little bit different than what you had seen before. While the renderings haven't changed, all of our operable partitions on Curry here are now marker board surface. We wanted that marker board surface anyways for writability so that there's lots of flexibility and different ways to teach with that. But now they're all marker board surface. We don't have much glass left in these interior spaces. You do see on the left image there at the end of the flex area between the collaboration area where we pull small groups out. We do have glass there for supervision purposes. All interior glass, just like the exterior glass, will have roller shades for that so they can be shut down for visibility purposes. Another note, since we're on this cohort, you can see in the plan on the top right there, there's a restroom block there. I just want to point out that we intentionally did consider restrooms in the design, obviously to have enough for one, but also to have them located in multiple locations. So that way, no matter where you are on the campus, there would be a convenience for restrooms, whether they're single individual restrooms or multi-stall restrooms, we have them spread throughout the campus and not just in one central location. They're, like I said, they're either individual restrooms or they're multi-stall up to 5 near like the cafeteria and the gymnasium where there's larger assemblies. Obviously, we have more. And the other part about the multi-stall restrooms is we do have full height partitions. So that was something a little bit new, I think, for Tempe's rebuilds, but we're doing that for the purpose of some safety and security as well in the restroom locations. And this is one of the animations. So I'll talk you through a couple items here. This is at the classroom cohorts, and you'll see it in a partially open and partially closed configuration. We're going through the flex area here. All the classrooms range between 850 square feet to 900 square feet, which is a standard class size. Code and SFD would allow a lot more children in these spaces, over 40 students by their standards. But of course, we're dealing with Tempe Elementary School District standards that are 25 at the elementary level. So that's what it's been designed for, is 25 students in each classroom. Moving over to some of the other assembly spaces, these are some of the gathering areas. The top right there is a gymnasium for Curry. The bottom left is your exterior amphitheater right outside the cafeteria, and the bottom right there is your cafeteria and stage location for performances and assemblies. I'm gonna play the first animation, which is the cafeteria coming in from the outside to the inside. The first thing you'll see on the left there is wash stations. We do have wash stations as the kids enter. Code permits up to 550 occupants in this area. This is a layout option for lunchroom tables. Obviously the or maybe not obviously, but the FF&E furniture selections haven't been selected yet. We laid it out for around 230 per lunch period. And then you can fit up to 350 chairs for audience viewing of the stage in this one. The stage is comparable to your other elementary rebuilds, where we do have a 12-inch high platform off the ground, so there's a couple steps, and then the stage opening is 29 feet high by 60 feet wide, which is, again, comparable to other rebuilds. All right. Again, orienting you with the site, we're going to move over to the Connolly rebuild, which is on the east side with the river and Concordia access. And these exterior images, mostly of the courtyard that you're seeing here, and both with Curry and Connolly, we have an exterior design circulation concept, right? So all of the educational spaces are on the inside, but a lot of access is from the exterior. That does mean balconies. We did pay special consideration to the guardrail design. So we either have the primary guardrail design is vertical pickets, steel pickets. So there's not climbability aspect to those. And then the kind of the aesthetic decorative approach is with those. You can see the purple panels there are a perforated steel panel. Those are both code compliant in every way. They're actually above code compliant because code only requires 3'6" height, but we've made them 4 foot high, so there's a little bit more precaution with students on site. But the same guardrail design is generally on Curry and Connolly. These are some of the interior images for Connolly. The top right there is your classroom cohort. We're looking at the flex area in the closed position where they have sliding doors that go into the flex areas, into the lab areas from the flex area. And the bottom left there is your main lobby, again with the secure entry, the 1 point of entry, bullet resistant glass, and the buzzed condition where you can't just enter the campus without being allowed. The bottom right there is your Learning Commons, just a peek at the Learning Commons mostly to showcase that built-in collaboration area and educational space. And then jumping into their cohort, it's a little bit different, a little bit larger at the middle school level where we have a flex area that is flanked by 2 lab spaces. The only operable partitions here are between each class. When there's 2 classrooms next to each other, there's an operable partition that is marker board partition. And then there are sliding glass doors from the flex area. There's 2 to the lab, and then sliding glass doors, a single one from the lab to each classroom as well. So those ones are, this is the typical condition. There are 2 other conditions that are a little bit more of a unique configuration. It's just a different number of classrooms to flex areas that have different operable partitions. Again, you can see the restrooms in this cohort here. Every cohort has access to restrooms like that, so we do have them spread throughout campus. We do have a variety of either individual restrooms up to multi-stall. This one being a larger campus, some of their assembly areas have up to 7 stalls per gender. And they are also full height, so floor to ceiling for the partitions. This is one of the first animation that goes through the classroom cohort for Connolly. Similar to Curry, our classrooms range from 850 square feet to 900 square feet. There are 14 elective spaces on the campus that range, the minimum is 1,200 square feet for those elective spaces as they have a larger need. But of course, music, art, band, fitness rooms, the weight room, those are all much larger due to the use of those spaces. So those have been properly sized. Again, code would allow us to have more than 40 students in these spaces, but using Tempe standards, we have designed for 30 at the middle school level. And then taking a look at some of the renderings from the inside assembly spaces. The top right there is our gymnasium. It is a 3-court gymnasium. It's shown in this configuration with the main court open and the track above. The bottom left there is our courtyard, a main gathering space between with great connectivity to the different educational areas. And then the bottom right there is our cafeteria / auditorium for performances. And the animation for the cafeteria. As we walk in here, this space can hold, code will allow 600 occupants. We have done some layouts for cafeteria tables. Again, it depends on the cafeteria tables picked, but we've done some layouts for 450 to 500 students per lunch period, or 450 to 550 for our audience layout. We did specifically look at the design configuration. It is comparable to your McCamey School, which we had done prior, as well as GEMS. We looked at those stage openings. So we did a 26-foot high stage opening by 75-foot wide. We did raise the stage a little bit higher, so it's actually at a 32-inch floor height. And the reason for that is because GEMS has the audience perpendicular to the stage, so some of the viewing angles are not the greatest if you're on the ends. We made ours specifically perpendicular to the stage, so you had a larger audience space for that. But we also recognize that people would be further away from the stage. So we raised the stage so, again, you'd have the better viewing angles. So we did take that into consideration. The gymnasium animation. We're starting up on the top floor with the track here. The gym is, like I said, it's in the open configuration for the main gym right now, but there are 3 cross courts in this gymnasium, so it is quite large. It absolutely can hold the entire school, which is designed for 1,500 students. It's also large enough the district has talked about using it for their back to school staff rally. It can hold that event as well at the beginning of the year. Code permits up to 2,500 occupants in this space, so it'll be a great opportunity for large assemblies. So moving from there, I'm going to invite Cora to chat a little bit about the GMP2 for the next phase or scope.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Brian Hamm. I'm the project director on the Connolly Curry rebuilds. About a month ago, we were here delivering GMP1. So you can see that was $12.5 million approximately, covered our civil work along with long lead procurement of mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, long lead items, and the elevator, and we thank you for your vote of confidence. Approving that GMP, I'm excited to update you that all of that procurement has started. We are underway, and yesterday, I believe yesterday morning, we reached the bottom of building pad for building A at Connolly. So things are moving, and they are moving quickly out there. Today, we are here to talk about GMP2. So this is the final GMP on the project, over $117 million. And this will be what gets us through the duration of the project. GMP2 is the product of a ton of hours. At one point, our entire pre-construction department was working on this project for a little while. Ton of hours into this. Details, you can see that a snippet of that deliverable on the right side of your screen. Jason Santor leads our pre-construction department. The humble servant leader that he is won't take the credit for him and his team and how much he's put into this, but I'll give him the credit tonight, and he'll take you through the rest of the presentation.
Yeah, thank you for that, Brian. My name is Jason Santor. I'm part of our pre-construction team over at CORE. Last month, as Brian mentioned, we were out here presenting GMP1, and it wasn't my face that you guys were looking at. It was a gentleman named Jeff Smith. He actually had a baby about a week ago, so he's at home with his wife and his family, and I know he is texting me as I was getting up here, and it took every bit of me telling him to stay back to not be here tonight. So hopefully we'll make him proud. So yeah, he was one of many that was part of our pre-construction team and really getting to this point of where we're at. And it's not intentional that spreadsheet is so little and the numbers are hard to see there, but there's a lot of numbers and there's a lot of scopes that represent what we're asking for tonight. And in the $117,759,000, we don't take that for granted. We know we need to be stewards of the dollar and stewards of the bond dollars, stewards of Tempe Elementary School District and the community that has voted on this. And we take that very seriously. And And we took that approach through all levels of pre-construction. From the moment we were hired, working through schematic design and programming, through design development and construction documents, and ultimately arrive here. We're proud to say we got a lot of excitement for this project from the trade partner community. We received over 100 bids on this project. There's a lot of attraction, a lot of excitement. Our phones are ringing off the hook for trade partners trying to understand if they're gonna play a role and be part of the team on this project. So I wanted to kind of dig in a little deeper as to what makes up that 117 and kind of give you guys a little bit of context. So some of the major scopes that represent that cost is electrical. That's about 12% of our direct costs on this project. HVAC, our mechanical systems, about 12%. Our structural steel, everything from our floor systems, our roof systems, those balconies that Katrina was alluding to, it's about 8%. Our structural concrete and our site concrete, about 6%. In our masonry, that's our exterior wall. We were very intentional about our exterior wall really serving as a structure and part of our envelope as well to create some efficiencies. That was about 6% as well. So the total of those 5 scopes represents about 44%. Almost half of our direct costs is in 5 scopes. To put that into some perspective, there's about 35 scopes in this project. So we had to be very, very, very strategic and work through options and scenarios to make sure that we were making informed decisions to make up the rest of that 56% to stay within the budget that has been identified, while balancing that with the project goals that Katrina alluded to of safety and security and flexibility and movement, learning and motion. We knew those were the things that couldn't be sacrificed through this pre-construction. The word value engineering gets thrown out a lot, and a lot of times that gets a negative context of what are you going to take away from the scope, and that's not the way that we look at it. We look at value options. How are we going to add value back into the project to make sure that we are achieving the goals but not increasing the cost of the project? So we are proud to say that we were able to do that. We were able to include the safety and security with secure courtyards, having the flexibility through a lot of those classroom spaces and really thinking through that, how those walls were going to operate, having that learning and motion and the movement and the athletic focus with the fields and the gymnasium and that track above, and making sure that we were just very strategic and trying to make sure that we weren't compromising some of the other scopes that were happening. And that just doesn't happen. It happens by having our finger on the pulse of the market. We're in such a unique time in the market right now. There's so much volatility. So we needed to be proactive in pre-construction. And we're able to do that. We put together a quarterly report at CORE that really identifies the factors in the market that can be risks. Whether it's labor shortages that we have here, whether it's material procurement and lead times, cost escalators. We get informed information from our trade partners where we really put together our own data to say, what are those risky scopes and how can we communicate that early to TD3 and to DLR Group to make sure that we're balancing those risks with the design progressing. Because the last thing we can do is go down a path and then come back and say, ooh, that's not what we anticipated. We know that we're giving a guaranteed maximum price tonight. It's not a guaranteed minimum price. It's a guaranteed maximum price, and we know you guys are very intentional on the procurement of this delivery method, and we take that seriously as well. So having this information allows us to work together as a team, guide the design, play our role in it, and then ultimately get to a point where we're going out to bid with these trade partners, getting over 100 bids, creating that excitement, and that happens by us having a good quality level of documents from the design team. Because right now, trade partners can be choosy on the type of work they're going after. So if documents aren't good, or if scope isn't understood, or if the schedule isn't really defined, they're not gonna bid it and they're not gonna put their risk out there. But for us to get that number of bids that we've got on this project and be able to deliver a GMP that we're asking for to be approved tonight really shows that this whole team has collectively came together for that. So just wanted to give a little explanation of how we arrived at our GMP number 2 tonight as a continuation of GMP number 1. And with that, I think we'll open it up to any questions that you guys may have.
Mrs. Windsor.
Thank you, President Ewers, and thank you for the team for the presentation. I have a number of questions, and I asked Ms. Ewers before we started if it was okay for me to ask all the questions, so buckle up. And I want you to understand that I'm not doing this as an attack or anything. I've recently heard a sociologist say that so many of us engage in a project and then spend our time in the postmortem trying to figure out what went wrong and how we can prevent it for another project in the future. And she suggests that we do pre-mortems, that we really focus on what things could go wrong and try to prevent as much as possible. Because we can look at cost on either end, right? We could look at costs now and by either delaying or just investing in making sure we're getting this right. And we all know that delays cost more money. But on the other end, the cost to fix things, the time it takes to fix things, the reputations that are damaged, and most importantly, staff morale that's truly damaged, is not worth it to me to not get it right to begin with. So let's start with glass walls, okay? You knew it was coming, right? Okay, so I wanted to know if you have any evidence that the design of glass walls on the interior will actually reduce, not increase, visual and auditory distractions. Now, I know we talked about safety, but I'm talking about middle school students and elementary school students. And just as a bit of context, I went to an elementary school that had no walls. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking across the library at my sister sitting in 5th grade, thinking I was never gonna make it. And I just know that in the 80s, we had far less distractions, and we were distracted. And we then put walls in Carbonati because kids like me were also distracted. So I'm asking, what kind of evidence do you have that it's going to actually reduce auditory and visual distractions?
Speaking first to the auditory distraction piece, when the walls are closed, we did take special care to make sure that we looked at the SRC level and NRC level. So the levels of the transmission of sound over the walls or through the walls, those are conversations that we have. And so they have gotten a lot better than they absolutely were when I was a kid or you were a kid. The operable partitions have gotten better and the glass walls have gotten better. So we did take that into consideration and make sure we had a high value there. Is it gonna be pin drop quiet? No, and I think that's part of the conversation with the professional development, to be frank, and some of the operations aspect of it. I think there's gonna have to be a lot more communication between teachers to make sure that if someone's having a party, someone's not having a test next door, right? Those are the kind of, but I think that happens in general, just when there is a wall. Walls don't prevent every sound either. When it comes to actual evidence, I know we do have some evidence-based design where there have been studies about the benefit of openness and the benefit of visibility. There has been studies with educational that there is a benefit of that visibility between spaces, whether it is for the connectivity for team teaching or whether it is for students to, be motivated by projects and things that are going on the campus, things like that. There has been some evidence for that visual actually to be a good thing. So I would say that what we have experienced and what our understanding is when we've done the postmortem discussions with our districts and our builds has been that there might be an adjustment period just like there is with anything else, but students are open to the idea. They actually work well within it, and I think it's a conversation to make sure that the culture is there for it, right? So embracing it and working within it isn't a hindrance, and it isn't a detriment to education. I think there's a lot more opportunities.
Okay. We do have a school that has glass walls. Were there any surveys of that staff about what they thought of that?
I don't know if the district has done any surveys. We did not as a team. We did visit that school. We had a lot of conversations about how it was opened up without some of that professional development on what the intent was with the design and the opportunities that were within the design. I believe that there's some efforts to also work with the teachers to, again, take advantage of those opportunities rather than see that hindrance. I did ask a teacher when I was doing my walk with the school, if they use the collaboration, if they use the glass walls, her response was, oh, well, that teacher is next to it, so we didn't know we can. And so there's a lot of, I think, misunderstanding and communication that can be enhanced. I also know the district is well aware of some of the things that didn't work out well, and to your point of postmortem, have learned from that and trying to find ways to make sure that they don't have the same mistakes, but actually improve upon it and find opportunities for the future use. I don't think that the design, it wasn't our design, to be frank. I don't think the design is bad. I think it has a lot to do with to your point, we get very excited and talk about the educational opportunities during design, but the people who use it may not be the people who were involved in that conversation. So it's about making sure that communication extends from design to the schools and the leadership and working within that scenario. So I think that there's a lot of great opportunity.
The design's beautiful. That's not even the question, right? And when students walk through there, it looks very attractive and someplace that they want to be.
Yeah.
The problem is it creates a heavy lift for district to see if they have a plan to roll out professional development on how to use the collaborative spaces. And I was wanting to know if we're ready for that.
I think so. One of the things I would say is I looked as we opened up another school and all the emails and feedback I got from teachers and staff about how they didn't like the glass. And I think in this build, we kind of minimized some of the glass in that particular case. If you can see, I don't know if you can go back on your screen to the flex spaces and the design. At the other school, AKA Mosley, the flex spaces were on the outside in the hallways. And so what you could see is what we did is we put the flex spaces inside in the spots. One of the things that the staff talked about, if you had a lockdown, so I heard numerous of, you locked the school, what do they call it, the pod or the structure, and you used a fancy term for C-spec or whatever, and that's the security. But the staff that I talked to never felt secure with that because they said you have all the glass, which is why we put the collaboration space in the center, saying that, hey, you can go into that space then and be big enough to hold students in there and cover that. I also think we went from clear glass to, Jen calls it something opaque. With that in mind too, knowing that we had staff who said you can still see in, and we even had shades to come down as well to mitigate that. So some of the things that we learned, that I learned from the previous build of that safety. Now I did have the question of like, well, if you're not gonna be able to see through the glass, why do you even have glass? And so that's been something I've been wrestling with in my mind now. Is like, we had glass, you could see through, and then we came back and said, no, we don't want to see through it. And I don't know the structural and all that stuff behind it, but a lot of the stuff that we did here at this build is learning from the Mosley build and all the things, like having a cafeteria and having a design that didn't factor in that you're going to put furniture in there. So then how do you have students go through periods? And so with this design, we accounted for that there's going to be furniture in there too. So how many students can sit in there with furniture in there and have that? And knowing that the number was 1,500, how many lunch periods do we typically have? And so we factored that into this, which in the Mosley design, when I got in and found out, I was like, when you put furniture in, you're not gonna be able to fit all these kids in there that they were seeing, so.
I appreciate you bringing up the balconies are the circulation, the patios are the circulation. The flex is not intended to be the circulation. And that is something that I believe has been communicated to the principals, the leadership, and it's the plan
Do you
for
mind
operation.
stepping closer to the microphone?
I apologize.
can't hear you. Thank
The
you.
balconies and the patios are meant to be the circulation from the exterior. You can see in these views here, all of the doors to the classroom are out to the outside. They're not through the flex area. Yes, there's connectivity to the flex area, but the intent is for all the students to enter from the outside. And the reason for that is exactly what Dr. Driscoll was talking about, is one of the lessons learned is that the flex areas weren't as utilized when there was circulation going through it. So if someone had to go to the bathroom, then they had to interrupt what was ever happening in the flex area to use a restroom. In this scenario, if someone has to use a restroom in the classroom, they go outside and come around and can use the restroom. If you're in a lockdown scenario, that changes everything. I mean, that's just like how it happens with fire drills, right? You practice for those lockdown scenarios. You wouldn't go to the outside if you're in a lockdown. You would have the accommodations on the inside. So I think that is one of the big differences between Mosley and this campus, was that lesson learned. And then I would like to say that we are continuing tours. The design team on the district side and our team has done tours of other schools that have had everything from operable partitions that are glass to operable partitions that are not glass, sliding glass doors, some that are translucent, some that are opaque, which means you can't see through it, some that are completely clear, and everything in between. I think seeing them in action is really helpful to understand the operation, and takes away some of that fear of what we build up in our mind. So for what it's worth, we are going to also plan tours, or we are planning tours with the principals and some strategic members, again, for that professional development to continue the conversation. I know that Jen had also mentioned, board members are also welcome in that scenario when we get those dates solidified. So I think that could help understand the use a little bit more. We do have, I want to also give you confidence in our group. We have PhDs, educators on our team who go through this process and talk about culture change, who talk about how professional development can be that difference between everyone's stage, rows of desks in a classroom and the traditional style versus the more collaborative style of teaching using those flex areas. And I know that Dr. Driscoll and his team have very much embraced that idea of teaching teachers, teaching schools, and encouraging that collaboration. So professional development is the best way to do it, and I know that they're working through how to roll that out.
Okay, thank you. So you may have to get back to me on this one, but I would like to know the initial cost difference between interior glass wall systems and traditional framed walls. And if, I don't know, permanent structure, if that would have to be shifted if we went that route. I would assume glass is heavier than a traditionally framed wall.
Yeah, if you went to a traditional frame wall, it wouldn't add cost for structure. I could say that comfortably. I don't know what the difference might be. I don't know if Cora's ready for that on the spot either.
That's okay, you don't have to give me an answer right away.
Yeah, we could get back to you on specifics of it, but what I could say is a traditional framed wall would fit within that dollar value that our
Oh yeah, well,
GMP
of course, because glass is more expensive.
currently represents too, so we wouldn't be coming, again, back to you guys for, hey, this costs more money in that scenario.
I was hoping we'd get a discount, but,
Yeah, oh, yeah, it would.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
If it changed, there definitely would be.
okay. What about the lifestyle cost comparison between glass and traditional partitions? And the reason why I asked this is we talked to, Ms. Ewers and I toured Mosley together, and we talked to Alberto, is that what his name? Wonderful gentleman. And we asked him about cleaning the glass. He's actually the one, I said, is there one thing we could do to make your job easier? And he said, reduce the glass. It's the very first thing out of his mouth. He said he could take, 2 more people in order to clean it every day? There's a lot of glass in that building. So what is the actual human labor costs of that compared to just having traditional walls that we paint when we have to touch up?
I don't know if I can speak to that. I don't know if you've done any studies on that either.
Kevin or Dave, do you know any answers to that?
I really don't. I do know the interior, or the exterior walls, we have a ionized water machine to where you just don't have to spend a whole lot of time drying them off. You can just brush the water on there, then hose it off, and then it automatically dries clear. So the exterior is a little bit less labor intense than the interior, but the interior, we probably need to look at probably some different cleaning methods.
Okay, thank you. And the last thing I have about the glass walls, based on your guys' professional experience, can you identify any situations where you've had interior glass that ultimately has been removed or covered because it didn't function as intended?
Glass walls that have been covered or removed because it didn't functionally. I can't think off the top of my head of one right now. I can follow up with you.
That's fine, thank you.
I appreciate your talking to teachers because I also value hearing the input and feedback. Have you talked, one of the things that I found really impactful is we did at Canyon View High School, which is on the West Valley. I don't know if you've visited that school by chance or anything in the Agua Fria School District. But I would have to say that I have visited that school. It's been open since pre-COVID, so maybe 7 years now. And they're highly effective with all of their operable partitions, their glass partitions. They haven't covered them up. it was a culture change for them to make sure that, like they said, if you're teaching here, you're not just covering it all, closing your windows all the time. We want that visibility, we want that connectivity, and it's been highly successful. And I've had students tour me through that, and they have said that it doesn't impact them, that they have people walking through. Their circulation is different, that they don't have outside circulation. They are walking through their flexible spaces, and they say they are not impacted. They're like, yeah, we see it, we ignore it, like, it's just like anything else.
You said Canyon View High School, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
It is a high school. I acknowledge that is a different level.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I also think that,
I mean, have you taught in a high school, freshmen to juniors? A world of difference in how they interact. And you just go down 3 levels and you've got an entire different beast.
and I have littles, I understand that
Okay.
every age is a different
Yes.
experience, absolutely.
Okay.
And to Dr. Driscoll's point, they have gone to an opaque marker board solution at Curry, I think for that very reason. I'm just bringing to the attention that there is opportunity that students can function
I
in the
don't
space
disagree
well.
with you. I
Yeah.
don't disagree with you. I just want to make sure we're ready if we go that route, because I don't think it's fair to put professionals into those classrooms and expect them to figure it out on their own. And so that really is not directed to you. It's, are we ready for this?
Okay.
Because this is a massive shift and it has not rolled out well at Mosley. So I don't want to repeat that.
And I would say part of our learning process with Mosley is that we didn't educate the staff for the spaces that they were going into. So part of what we've been working on here is how do we, whatever space we create at Connolly Curry, how do we replicate that and have teachers get into that space prior and learn how they maneuver and how we want education to go in those spaces? Because if you just build a new school, and this is what I learned at Mosley, they were at Mosley, we built up a school, and then we moved them out of Mosley and put them in there. And what they do is it looked exactly like it did prior to that school being there. There's no difference. And if you do not do that education, and that was the biggest learning for us, is if you don't train your teachers or what you want them to do in that space, they will create the same space they came from, and it will look exactly the same. And so you'll be fighting that. And so that was one of the ahas for me, is like, if we're not gonna spend the time to teach our staff how to use the space and the intentionality with it, you might as well just build the same school that they came from, because that's what you're gonna get.
Yep, totally agree.
I do have one scenario, speaking of examples, at Liberty Elementary School, which is an elementary school, they had operable partitions between their classrooms similar to both Curry and Connolly, where they are marker board, and they love them. And I was talking to one teacher, I love popping in when they don't expect us, because then I get more honest feedback sometimes, and they had 2 of the panels open. They didn't have the entire wall open, but they had 2 of the panels open. And I said, oh, this is interesting, is this for a specific reason? She's like, we basically teach this way. She's like, I team teach with the person next to me. We leave it open all the time so we can like supervise or help each other out throughout the day. She's like, I like keeping 2/3 of it open or closed, I should say, because of the marker board situation. She uses it for her 2nd graders to practice math, and they just sit on the floor and work on the marker board, and they love it because they get to work on the marker board, right? And so she's like, I love that they have that marker board scenario. So that school specifically also had large picture windows that went down to the ground. It wasn't an opening, but it was a clear, transparent picture window from the classroom to the circulation space, and they had breakout areas in there. And she said she loved that because she could send her kids out and she could see them, and she would leave the door open so she'd have some audio connection as well, because that was one thing she thought was lacking, was more audio connection for that scenario. But she could see them, have a small group out there doing their reading, and then have other groups inside the classroom doing their reading. So she saw a lot of value in that visibility. She was using it that way. Does every teacher use it that way? I couldn't speak for all of them, but they were finding a lot of success with it. So every scenario, you'll find some that work well and some that don't, and I completely agree that there's opportunities that need to be communicated.
Yeah, and the marker board options opens right up to building thinking classrooms that we can get the kids up and circulating and doing all those wonderful things that system provides. All right, let's transition to cafeteria, and I'm grateful Ms. Watts is here because I have some questions. At Mosley, which has a similar layout, and I believe I brought this up last time, with the food service being at the end from where they would enter, how is the flow? Because I was there and I watched it, and I want to see if you have the same opinion of it that I did. And it's okay if you don't.
Yes, so specifically to Mosley, I do agree that serving area is small. I think it's around 700 square footage. So we did double the square footage for Conley. So I am confident that we can get enough students through that serving area. So
Okay.
we don't have that buildup. I feel like it's a bottleneck where Mosley is currently.
You're right, and I actually think that part of the problem with me as a governing board member seeing just computer renderings is I have to visualize the size, and if I had a blueprint in front of me, I could do that. Is there a reason why we weren't given blueprints? You don't want us actually looking? I'm just kidding. I would love to see a blueprint. It's really hard for me to visualize with just chunks of pictures. So if we could get that, I would really appreciate that. Okay.
Is that okay? I don't see any problem with that.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Watts. And we know that we'll be gaining additional students from fees with the bus boundary changes. So would you like to address that?
We plan for 1,500. So right now Connolly has about 900 students, so 600 more. Fees has 580. So we plan to have it to be bigger in the first place. So we could accommodate having fees. If we moved fees over there today, if the building was up, it would be enough for all the students there and currently at Connolly.
Okay. And if I remember what you said earlier, that the cafeteria is large enough to accommodate the current schedule for lunches.
Yeah, so our current 6th, 7th, 8th grade model, so the schools don't have all the kids go to lunch at the same time, so they break it up into periods. So it would be able to accommodate that.
Okay, thank you.
Worries with Mosley is, and I have no shame in the game. I wasn't here when Mosley was built, but it was one of my worries when I came in and they told me about the square footage and how many students, because it was without furniture. So that was one of the things I got to say, we need to make it bigger and anticipate how much furniture would be and how many students would be based on the furniture.
And were the shades that you were talking about, the pull-down shades, are those similar to what exists at the Mosley cafeteria, the like roller shades?
They're roller shades. I don't know if I've seen the ones at Mosley, so I
Okay.
can't speak specifically to the product, but yes, they are roller shades.
Because I really worry about when students are pressed up against those, when they're standing in line, like the longevity of those shades, I would not be counting on. They become a supply and not a capital purchase, if we're coding correctly. So,
So I would say that we don't anticipate the shades being down unless there is a specific reason. And at Connolly, it's facing east, but it's also covered by a balcony, so it has a great shade in that space. So there wouldn't really be a need to pull the shades unless it is for lockdown reasons in that assembly area. I would also say in Curry, it's facing north. So again, there's no direct sunlight in there, and there should be no need for the shades to be down during lunch hours.
okay. What about the acoustical standards for the cafeteria since we use them for music performances, like ceiling height and material choices?
We did provide high absorptive materials. So we do have concrete floors. That is a Tempe standard, great for maintenance and cleanability and a lot of other reasons, but it is not an absorptive material. So
Right.
we did make sure that our ceiling spaces in Curry, we have ceiling clouds that have a higher acoustic value. And then we also have the panels on the walls because it is a taller space. Curry didn't have a floor above, so we were able to do that. Connolly has a floor above, so while we do have a high ceiling space, we made sure to actually put a ceiling in there and not leave it exposed. And the reason for that was to have more absorption in that space. So it will help deaden the sound when you do put 600 students in there.
Yeah.
So that'll help.
So what is the ceiling height for the cafeteria? Do you happen to know? And it's okay if you don't. I did ask for a
Don't know
blueprint.
offhand.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it's basically double height in Curry. In Connolly, I can tell you what the stage is, and I know it's a little bit higher than that.
Did you say it's a double height from Curry?
Curry has the double height.
Curry
space.
has the double height, got it, because of the no upper floor.
Correct.
Okay. And then because you've covered majority of my questions about that, I would really like to see the spaces for electives, the band, choir, orchestra, art rooms. I know you said you accommodated for Tempe standards of 25 at Curry. Did you say 30 at Connolly?
Oh, the typical classroom is 30, but it's larger for those electives that are specific to like band. You're going to have a larger band and orchestra than you might have 25 or 30 students, right? So we did accommodate that. We did engage the Tempe district on right number for seating and making sure the arches for the music spaces work. I would also say that like art room, it was more, I can't remember the exact number that we were, do you remember what we were designed to in those electives?
I don't, but I can say postmortem of Mosley, getting a thing that we were 10 inches feet short from what our rooms were, and then having to change that, and how much that cost us to change that on there. I made sure that we were at that space that our district standard is for that.
And we were larger than Mosley.
Mosley.
We used Wenger standards for the music rooms, and then we confirmed even the storage
What
needs.
standards?
Wenger, W-E-N-G-E-R. They're known for their instrument storage and also layouts.
Yeah. Is that what we're going to be utilizing instead of just like wood shelving in there?
We do have wood shelving in there like Mosley has, and then they're going to be purchasing instrument storage for the storage rooms. So like the ones that are partitioned with the little covers, the grates.
And then last question about that area until I see the blueprints. The question I have is, I heard somebody say that there's green room.
Oh, green room. We do have a space off of the choral music space in Connolly that is specific to whether it's props or costumes. My understanding is that the choral music teacher is often also doing the theater part of it. So we did make sure that that had the adjacency and the space for it, so that for her to have that program.
So, and that's what I was wondering, the green room isn't in the traditional sense of a holding place for actors in between sets. So we don't necessarily need to worry about piping audio into that area? Okay. That's all my questions for now. Thank you for entertaining them all.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mrs. Ewers.
Mr. Lemon.
I have a few questions. I enjoyed the presentation. One of the things I wanted to ask right away is, what's the difference between a guaranteed maximum price and a construction manager at risk?
Do you want to take that one?
Yeah, great question. So construction manager at risk is the procurement type that the district decided to use for this project. There's multiple procurement types: construction manager at risk, design bid build. So construction manager at risk ultimately arrives, you go through a pre-construction process, and you get to this point that we're at right now to provide the guaranteed maximum price. So we give our guaranteed maximum price utilizing the construction manager at risk procurement model.
Thank you. My next question, following up particularly on Ms. Windsor's question about the elective space and how big are these labs, and particularly as we try and be flexible in the future, particularly with our career pathways or other sorts of things, or going back to construction management or construction techniques, all these sort of things. Is the space big enough to repurpose those spaces from, say, traditional home ec sort of things with cooking and sewing, or a shop class, or a not welding, but
Yeah, I would say that we did design with flexibility in mind. So that is where we try to find the right size space. So that's where the 1,200 square foot came from. And all of the electives also have storage off of them. Storage room could be a prep room for science. It could be a place for a 3D model machines, right? So there's different opportunities for that. So we did plan it for easy configuration in the sense of a lot of power. Power seems to be the biggest challenge when you don't know if it's going to be machine heavy or equipment heavy versus not. I would say that if you did something like construction trades, you will probably have to update your HVAC. It's not going to be like a move-in ready, but it is something that could adapt. So we did provide for that flexibility for the opportunities for it to adapt. Things that we did plan for specifically, obviously art, music, orchestra and choir, but also culinary is also planned specifically for the startup.
okay. And I think the question was, how many of these elective spaces are we going to have, particularly at Curry and then at Conley?
We currently have 14 that are the larger version. If it's elective like French, obviously they can partake in a standard classroom size, but we have 14 that are larger than a normal classroom.
And that was Conley or Curry?
At Conley.
Okay, thank you. I think Dr. Driscoll answered my question about the space that we're accommodating, total of 1,500. And I guess my question is, people are saying, well, if we're losing students and closing schools, why are we building a school? So I guess the question that I see is, having looked at these schools for the last 20 years, they're getting more and more expensive to maintain and repair. And that's one of the issues. So I guess what's the lifetime expectancy of what we're building?
As directed, we have planned for a 50-year school, so that is where we're, doesn't mean your roof is gonna last 15 years, 50 years, you probably have to recode it in 20, right, things like that. So there will be maintenance that'll be needed throughout the time, but yes, we are absolutely planning for a 50-year school at this point.
And I'll chime in. One of the things with this build is, with that in mind, is typically we built small neighborhood schools. And because we build small neighborhood schools, we have inefficiencies. And so why I said this, build it for 1,500, in case we had to close schools, that we had enough space so we didn't have to come back to you and say, we need to build more on here. So that was kind of one of the premises of why the 1,500 number came out there. We also, when I keep talking about flexibility, one of the biggest things that we wanted to hammer in this project is, today that space could be PE, or PE is a bad one, but French. But tomorrow it could be an esports space. So do we have power in different places that we can configure the room? Because what happens a lot of times is we just build a standard box and say this is the classroom, and then we have to come and retrofit it. And so I wanted to future-proof it so that we could have those flexibilities. With culinary and some of the others, you have to build hoods and stuff in there. But for most of our classrooms, they can be different spaces depending on what changes. And that was the flexibility part. So most people think we're talking about the flexible walls, but we actually, for flexibility, we're really talking about that room could be something different 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and that we had power in different spots to be able to do it, whether it's coming from the ceiling and the floors and the side, that we future-proof the room as much as possible for that. So that was the real concept with the flexibility, not necessarily the operable walls, but also having the flexibility that anywhere in those classrooms, we can have different power sources. So, and I learned about high voltage and low voltage.
Absolutely.
Which is a thing.
Well, I went to a place where they have Sparky, but I guess my question on the glass partitions, that's pretty hard to bring power in there or other sorts of things. And so I think, from that standpoint, it's probably great to look at, and there's a lot of things you can do, but once you start changing what you're going to do with that space, it creates problems.
And that's something we did take into consideration. So obviously we do not have power in the operable partitions themselves, but any adjacent walls, we put the power there, we put them overhead so that there was more power than your standards in the past rebuilds. So we did take that into consideration. I use the scenario of one of my builds. I went and talked to the teacher afterwards, and she just happened to be doing some science lesson where she had a whole bunch of hot, the kettles that get the hot water, those take a lot of watts, who knew, right? But she had like 6 of them and she kept tripping breakers. So the intent with this is to make sure we have dedicated circuits, to make sure we have the additional power opportunities, so that if something like that and they want to do a science experiment, they have the opportunity to do that. If they want it to be in esports, they have the opportunity for that. So we did make sure that it is flexible, but also future-proofed for all of the needs that do require power these days.
Thank you. I had several comments about the layout, and I really like this idea of septet.
It's wonderful.
It makes sense to me, and you don't want to put tall bushes all around the thing so you can't see anything. And I was really appreciative about having the entrances in the parking area for everybody on two streets, basically, on those corners. And so that makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Particularly, when I walked out to my car tonight, it was about 6 o'clock, and nobody could see me. And they were a long way from the street. And so I think that's one of the issues when we talk about that sort of thing. So I was appreciative of that. The other issue that I thought was good was the idea of on Country Club, where the parking and the access to Conley was coming in, it was a dead end. And we don't like dead ends
Congestion.
in any sort of thing. And so in the area between the two athletic fields, is that designed to bring in any sort of emergency equipment or heavy equipment? Or is it just,
Between the athletic fields is primarily for either overflow or event parking. You can there's a fire apparatus can get through that, so if there was larger trucks, food trucks, things like that, they could come through that space. The intent is not for them to come through that central parking lot to the main campus. There's other access points for that.
yeah, okay. I saw, as we're going through the slides, I looked at an interior courtyard, and it showed it plantings and grass, and, you know, traditionally, we've had a lot of problems with that, because either drainage, number one, or just getting enough sunlight for the plants to grow, or keeping the kids off it from that standpoint. Are we looking at artificial turfs?
Absolutely, both courtyards.
And I guess I was really pleased to see a care center for our teachers. That's what we're designing for, or is it for students in the community?
It's for community use and partnerships as well. So one of the things that we wanted to do is being good stewards. And so we have a partnership right now with Sonoran University right off there, where they provide medical services and for our students and families within our community. So the care center would be able to have that, as well as dental and I think vision. And so we would have agencies, partnerships come into there and provide services to our families and community there. So that was one of the premises. Chandler Public Schools has one. They have, I think they call it the Chandler Care Center. But really to have that partnership and with our wraparound services, knowing that our community needs and our families to be able to have them come in, even behavioral supports, and having spaces where families could come in and have that as well. So that was the premise for the care center.
Okay. Well, my question, I guess, is we have a lot of teachers in this area here. And do we have before school and after school sorts of other things to care for themselves, whether it's, I don't know,
And yes, yes, for that.
classes or something? I don't know.
Teachers would be able to utilize those facilities as well, which we currently have a lot of teachers utilizing as well. And one of the things that they didn't talk about over at Curry is traditionally in schools, we don't really plan for after-school care and how people get in and out of there. And so we actually have planned for having Kids Zone, I think they call it Kids Zone. I pay Kids Express in Chandler. And so we have ability for them to have their own space and to be able to provide that. And then parents having an easy way in and out of that space so that you don't have to open up the whole school for parents to get and maneuver through. So that was one of the things, we don't really talk about it in there, but that was one of the things that we did and had that foresight in mind too. For our families.
Thank you. I thought I had one more question. What's, with $130 million for 2,000 kids, I guess, is the space we're doing. What's that per kid that we're designing?
Times 50 years.
I think they're over like $500 a square foot. And that's why I had Mr. Thompson show the inflation of construction cost over the years, because the price per square foot is just constantly keeps going up.
And I did appreciate that in the spreadsheets or the slides, because it's really true. And where I work, that's a real problem too. And from that standpoint,
And Katrina can, I could be wrong because I hear a lot of numbers, but isn't there like so much square foot you have to have per student?
Well, the SFD has minimum standards,
Okay.
but to be frank, they're minimum standards, and I feel like with your class count of 25 and 30, you have done better than their minimums by far.
Well, I think you've answered my questions. I have this. Board members, I didn't go through all 78 pages of the items. I think it was 78 pages, wasn't it? Somewhere in that, and I gave up after 12.
It's a lot of work.
But from that standpoint, but it looked like, looking at the schedule here, it looked aggressive to me. It looked aggressive to me. I'll go that way. And particularly when we're talking about opening in, was it January of 78 or 28?
July of 27, January of 28, everything would be in, there because right now they'll build in the fields.
Right.
And so once they build in the fields, then they'll have to tear down the existing, and that's where the new fields will go. So I think in January of 28, all of that will be done.
That's the target date, yes. And I would say it is an aggressive schedule. It's something that we talk about every day. We just had our first, we call it poll plans, where we bring in the first wave of trade partners to, we put a schedule together that we feel very confident in, but we also are not the ones who are doing it every day that have the expertise. And so we bring them in to help us scheme out and find the holes and bring that schedule back. So that process has started. We are confident that we can achieve that aggressive schedule. And we understand the kids show up on the first day no matter what. So there's no wiggle room, right? So this is basically all we do is build public schools. It's not lost on us how critical that date is. And I need to give the keys to the school over to you as soon as possible so that you can do some of those professional development things, so that furniture can move in, so that all those, when I turn off the lights on my last day on the project, I know that there are a number of things that need to happen before students show up. So we need, we focus on schedule every day, and we're confident we can hit it.
That brings up my thought on all the trades and all the subs. Maybe Mr. Carbajal can respond. How are we clearing these people to go on to our property next to where we have hundreds of kids?
I'll go first, and then if you want to chime in. So, great question. We, like I said, we specialize in building public schools, and our trade partner, let's put it this way, no one's building their first school on this project, right? No one's going to learn how to do it here. We're taking the tried and true, the professionals that know how to do this. All of our people on site have fingerprint access, fingerprint clearance cards from the state, and that's something that we do audits on. We also are very intentional about how we separate from the existing campus. So when I was here last month, we had the logistics plan up. I wish I could flip to it right now, but we fence ourselves in, right? So there's no cross-mingling between active campus activities and construction. We pull into our site, we shut the gate, we're there, and operations are uninterrupted. We were talking this morning about we shut down our access to the site during pickup and drop off. So if our trade partners aren't here by 30 minutes before the bell, gates shut, don't show up until 30 minutes after the bell. And same thing on the way out at both campuses. And that actually does take quite a bit of staging. There's big, especially right now in earthwork operations, there's big equipment that we want to be sure that we are away from any risk of that traffic congestion that happens at pickup and drop off. So I hope that answered the question. Do you want to chime in on anything?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll, thank you. So, and one of the things we've been working on, everything he said is my understanding of what has happened. And one of the things that we talked about at the initial site meetings, both at Conley and Curry, is the additional piece of their staff being part of the lockdown protocols and procedures, right? That's another element of this that we need to address, because they need to understand if the school is in lockdown, what that means. And as you guys, if you saw the news on Monday, there were two major incidents that resulted into 3 deaths in Tempe. And one of those affected 3 of our schools in the area of rural and Guadalupe. So we've had those initial talks about the training of, okay, if we're in lockdown, if we're in lockout, if we need to shelter, if we need to evacuate, what does that look like? Not only for the staff and students, but for their team as well, because we don't want that safety compromised. We don't want their safety compromised or leaving gates open and things like that where a would-be criminal could enter the site. So we've had those initial talks, but my plan is to make sure that everybody's dialed in on the same page. So if they hear one of those terms, they know exactly what they should be doing. And they've talked about posting, our safety flyers and the protocols in their workspaces so everybody's familiar. But we need to brief that and train that in order for everybody to be on the same page.
And I guess with the idea of the safety for people, that's great. What about all the products that are bought now and then stored somewhere? I mean, is it in the warehouse?
So a few different options, right?
Yeah.
This is a very difficult site to build on. So we don't have a ton of room to store a bunch of material anyways. Right now, it's largely equipment. Soon it will be a ton of block. As soon as those high dollar value items start showing up that are being staged, obviously we're on site at all times. When we're not, we typically, as those high dollar value items show up, we'll put security cameras up. I'm sure you've driven by them where they have the, it's not just a camera that you don't know there. It's completely obvious that there is surveillance and monitoring that's happening. If you've watched the news lately, people are getting pretty bold with HVAC equipment. So that's typically when that starts to drop, is when we start adding security to make sure that that's expensive and it takes a long time to get, and the schedule doesn't afford it walking away. So that's typically how we handle it. And then that monitoring will remain in place depending on, sometimes we pull it when the buildings become lockable. So enclosures up, doors are in, we have a way to lock the door when we leave. Sometimes in critical areas, they remain up through the duration of the project.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam President. She lives in the neighborhood. She has a big yard.
It could be there. Mr. Terry?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you all so much for coming today. I appreciate it. You've been good soldiers back there standing at attention for an hour, so I appreciate it. I was like, can we get him a stool or something? So no, I definitely appreciate that. It's $130 million. We gotta do it, right? So I appreciate being at this end of the table. I'm just over here crossing off questions because I had some of them too. I was also concerned about the glass. Middle school is just a thing. You can go by and you can knock on it and then run away, and that's the funniest thing that's happened all week. I don't know what that's about, but I was definitely concerned about that too, but I feel good about that. Real quick, I wanted to shout out Mosley. That's still a nice building. We use like 3 or 4 examples of why it's not a nice building. It's still a very nice building. It's just, I feel like we just wish it were a little bit bigger. I just heard that a few times. The number 1,500, that's a very large middle school. I don't really know of middle schools that are that big, but I have some experience teaching the opposite end of that. I was teaching at McCamey when it reopened, and we had 83 6th graders, and that was it. So when we said, like, this classroom could be a French classroom, like, no, it wasn't. We had a half-time Spanish teacher, and that was it. And this being Arizona, half the kids already spoke Spanish anyway. So you just didn't really have a whole lot of options for some things. You had one music teacher, and it was half-time. You had one PE teacher who was half-time, and there's a lot of things you can't do when the building is really small. So, there are pros and cons to larger buildings and smaller buildings. I tend to favor, if I had to pick one, I would favor larger because it's just you have more opportunities there. Like, yes, we do have a French teacher. Yes, we do have a Spanish teacher. Yes, we do have orchestra and band and choir, and we have guitar, and we have all these different things. So I tend to like that. I think that was a good idea. And last, we keep talking about a 50-year school. That's different than a 50-year society. My parents and I went to the same high school, and 50 years ago was 1975. Like, my high school still had a smoking lounge when I went to high school. I graduated in 2001. We didn't use it, obviously, in 2001. They had banned all that stuff, but it was still there. We walked by and we're like, yeah, I guess kids just got to go outside and smoke during the day. It was just fun, you know, whatever. And so the teachers. So I appreciated hearing about the flexibility for future use for those spaces, because 2075, like, I have a pretty good idea what I'm going to be doing then. I'm glad that those future students and teachers are going to be able to use that space. And that was all I wanted to say. I've just crossed off like 7 questions here, so thank you all for that. I appreciate it.
Okay. Can you go to the slide that has the Connolly layout, the school? So I'm elected by my neighbors and the community, and so right now my questions are going to be fueled from them. I kind of feel like I'm the one that, I'm the speaker for the trees, well, I'm the speaker for the people. So with that said, I'm going to ask some questions, and you're going to be like, she's off her rocker, but they're legitimate, great questions. Darren, I'm going to need one that moves soon. Okay, so right here, up to Broadway. Why can that no, oh, I was kidding. Look at that, asking you shall receive. Woohoo, oh, this is great. Okay, so right here, driving, got a turn for since 1973, my neighbors and I have all had to turn and go around, right? Why, again, don't judge me on the question, just the question, why can't we open this up to go straight to Broadway?
I think I would need to defer to the district on that one. This is their property, the district property, so you would be basically giving it up or having to maintain public right-of-way. That's my first reaction.
Thank you. And the city would then have to control it, and it would become city space that they would have to pave and use. And then would we have any safety issues with cars going through a campus of children?
Yes, I think so. You'd have to totally change the fencing and the security and be able to contain students and not have them enter the roadway. Then I think you would get into crosswalks and different issues like that. And how are you going to monitor pedestrians across and pedestrian crossings? And so I think it would be, not that it's impossible, but it definitely creates new issues and challenges.
Fair enough. Okay, so you had mentioned that this is a very difficult build because of the bow tie effect, right? But you didn't say bow tie effect. Can you explain to our voters and residents what that bow tie effect is and what you had to work around?
Absolutely. Thank you. It is much easier for us to build and stage in a uniform property. The fact that we are really wide at the ends and then skinny way down. Yep, bow tie, upriver, down to Country Club, back up, right? It looks like a 45-degree angle bow tie. And that pinch point in the middle creates a ton of challenges. Also, it limits access to the site. It limits, it's also a ton of school on 2 fields, and now we're adding a ton of athletics, right? So honestly, as we build this, every square inch will be named and allocated towards someone's storage, someone's parking, or building or field. This is the shape and the pinch points create challenges on how we can stage material, stage people, and still build it effectively. Does that answer your question?
And Dr. Driscoll, why did we choose to up the sports environment and opportunities?
Well, we currently have to rent out fields when we do different athletics. So, for instance, I want to say last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a track meet. We had to ask our school district, Tempe Union, can we use your fields to do that? And so one of the things that I wanted our district to have is have our own spaces that we don't have to actually go out and ask. But also for our community, having a track that they can go walk the track, and having those amenities for our kids was a great thing. I feel for students. Athletics is a great avenue for students to be able to participate. With our Mosley build, our athletic facilities aren't to standard, and so we can't use our softball fields because they're not at regulation and stuff like that. And so having a place where we can have regulation fields to have athletic events was one of the things as well.
Can you go to, no, this is for Darren. Darren, has IT been a part of all this? And I did hear you talk about electricity, and I'm thinking 50 years from now, our children may need even to be plugged in. Everything's going to be plugged in. So how do you feel about the blueprint of electricity?
So, Madam President, members of the board, IT has been a part of the development, going through blueprints and everything before we even broke ground. So we've made sure that all the pathways for the communication lines are expanded, so they're going to be able to handle, more lines down the road. We made sure that there's additional electrical. We'll have some electrical that comes up through the ceiling because we know, computers, things will need to stay charged, but you can't have cords going from walls all the way to the center. So we've tried to accommodate for any future-ready technology, which we know is going to involve more wireless devices and more network capacity as things come through those virtual lines. So we've made sure we have the accommodation for that with the IDFs, MDFs, all the networking equipment. Everything has been accounted for and is future-proofed and future-ready.
Thank you, because I've seen your team have to go through a lot of duct tape and a lot of extra work to just equip rooms when needed, even this own room, right? So, so you feel as good as you can with what's being allotted.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's
Great.
comfortable.
Can you guys go to the cafeteria?
For Connolly?
Go to Curry first.
I'm sorry, this one here. And I can pause when you'd like.
No, it's okay, keep going. So I'm walking in those doors on that side, right?
Correct.
Walking, okay, can you, okay. So right here, I just washed my hands. Am I walking along the stage side to get to food? And is food entrance on the stage side, or is food entrance to the line on the other side?
It's on the line on the other side. We talked about it could go on either side. I don't think that they have the operations completely figured out, but it could go on the other side. We made sure that the long sides were the ones that they would line up on, though.
Okay, so I feel like it's a little Yankee for the kids to walk in, walk to this side, turn, walk to that side, and then go. So is there that flow is not feng shui-ish?
They can still go straight from there, like to your point, in front of the stage, all the way down, and then.
Oh, no. You don't allow children to not be in line.
Sorry, no. I meant them to line up along the stage side wall.
Okay, so how do you feel about the flow in the room of a child coming in, washing hands, going down stage side, then starting over there and coming back down this way? Because I feel like we got a traffic problem because we got kids going in and then we've got kids coming out in the same spot. That concerns me. And their hands are dirty if they start on the other side.
Yes, I see your perspective. I think it would be best if it was on the opposite wall as far as like the hand washing sink, but I don't know logistically if that's possible.
If that was looked at and changed, would that change the price and us approving or not approving today?
It would not change the approval. It is something that would be taken, we have a bucket of money called contingency. So if there's unforeseen conditions, this is an existing campus, right? If there's things underground that we didn't know were there, it could be taken from that bucket of money. That bucket money is not used, it is returned to the district. But we have that contingency is there for that purpose.
I'm mentioning this now because of plumbing.
Yes.
And I'm thinking maybe that wall was chosen because there might be something on the other side.
Correct.
And there may be not something on the other side. I mean, we might end up hooking it to a hose or something. I don't want that.
I don't know what is on the other side of that exterior wall. I do know that there are typically water fountains. I'm confident that if that moved from left to right, we would make it work.
Please look at that.
Understood. Yep.
Now, we're at the stage. So I'm a theater kid, okay? And the biggest disservice to all of our students, the biggest service that we have to all of our students, I'm going to use a case in point of visiting McCamey this week, is that our theater programs rock. Our music programs rock. I mean, they really do. Like, we're getting kudos in other places and we win awards on this, okay? But when I go to specifically McCamey or to the newer schools, if I'm not there 3 hours before it starts, I'm setting back at least 4 rows plus. I can't see a thing, nothing. I hear it. It is so frustrating. And when you are a theater kid and you build props, you build the environment from the ground up. Well, I can only see here. Now, my son did remind me that during assemblies, they all sit Indian style on the floor. I'm over 50. I don't sit Indian style on the floor. So 32 inches isn't working for me, but my concern is that, will we have a structural issue if we raise the roof to accommodate the stage going higher? I mean, look right here, there's a reason why we're on risers, is because we need them all to see us. And we're going back 6 rows. Like, we're not going back 45. So give me your panic feeling on that. Like, what can we do here? Because it's not working and it's not good for the kids to not be seen.
I know that with the elementary level, we did not intentionally raise it much higher. I think part of the reason is because it is an elementary level, and those steps are also used for kids to sit along it if they're a kid zone or things like that as well. At Connolly, the 32 inches higher, that is not stepped down in the same way. It's seated steps, but it's not walking steps, we'll say. The higher you go, the longer your ramp gets, the more space you take up for those things, so you're losing actual square footage when you go high. So I understand it is a balance when you have a multi-use space versus, say, an auditorium. This is not an auditorium, this is a multi-use space, is how we are looking at it.
Well, I've confirmed with current Kids Zone people that no child has ever fallen off the current high 1974 stages, so that's good.
Yes.
They're aware of that. I'd like to see the stages higher. I'm just putting that word in. You can't make me very happy all the time. You can make me 50% of the time happy.
I would say in the current design, in order to make it higher, we would have to make it smaller because we do not have area behind it to make a ramp.
Put this note for the next rebuild, please.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to glass, sorry. And you guys can finally get out of here. So I am walking, oh, here we go again, hold on. I'm going to my cohort, open the door. I walk into my cohort and there's this system, okay? When I walk in, there's some classrooms here, there's classrooms here, there's classrooms here, there's classrooms here, and then this common area. Where am I seeing glass? Am I seeing glass right here and I can see in there opaquely? Am I seeing in here?
So
Where's the glass?
On Curry, we're not any longer. It is marker board material, so it looks like a wall with a marker board on it.
So if I I'm walking through the halls, hey, I don't get to 6, 7 on my way through, right?
Correct.
No one will see that.
You won't be walking through the halls. I do want to clarify that you won't be entering through the flex areas. You'll be on the exterior of the building, and there is clear glass so that you have daylight and, daylight, basically.
Because once a student or a class is distracted, we owe that teacher money, because to get them back is hard. So they are not going to be as distracted as the setup that I have in my mind having toward Mosley. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So at Curry, I'm going to flip back to this area. I apologize, this was not an updated rendering, but you can see that right now you can see just barely through those. You're not going to see that. It'll be a flat white marker board wall. You won't see through it.
I'm looking at Charlotte because we're the ones you're having to convince on
I
this.
understand. On Connolly, it is not operable partitions at the flex area. It is sliding glass doors. Similarly, this has been changed from being translucent before, where like a frosted look, to an opaque white, so it is solid and you don't see through it.
Okay, so then now we go to opaqueness or a film. There's a current film on the example that we have for us at the school now. When teachers hang something up on that with tape, when the tape comes off, the film comes off. This is not, that system is not lasting 50 years. Plus, I believe the film may be some sort of safety system. Is that right? Or is it just a bullet resistance? Is that it? Is it right now at Mosley a bullet resistant film, or is it a razzle dazzle film?
At Mosley, I'm not sure what you mean by razzle dazzle, or if it's magical in any way or not, but I believe that
Just like to color or to keep sun out, or?
I think it's really just that ballistic protection, but it doesn't do anything else other than that you would expect. And I believe what my information was that it's tempered glass, so if it were to shatter,
Okay.
it would kind of spider and not actually go through.
Okay, well, that film is now. And then I think to myself, okay, when you have that issue, why do you have that issue? They have that issue because we've lost wall space. So the teachers have to use the glass walls because teachers like things on walls. Like we all do that, right? You go into a kid's room and you put things everywhere, all over walls. So they used to have 4 walls. Now they have a glass wall. So they use that. And the district has spent a lot of money, I noticed, on signage that says, please don't put anything on the glass. And it doesn't always compute. So that's failing. So we took away their wall. They need a wall. They use tape that takes off the film.
So I would like to say that we do not have film in this new build. There is no film. The conversation about translucent or opaque or all of that is handled within the glass system itself. The glass is laminated glass with 2 pieces of glass with the film on the inside. So both sides are not film. That makes sense.
And then I would just like to request, you don't have to appease me, but I would like the janitors at the 2 new schools to be included in a meeting sooner rather than later on cleaning. Now, I say this because I want to use this example. So in my home, I'm continually touching up things, washing things. I actually have a garage door in my home, which is cool, right? The one thing that I'm always doing is cleaning those windows, so I totally get it. But I will be continually fixing things, and my family's like, what? Like, why are you having to clean everything? Well, the person who cleans knows what things need fixed. Those who don't clean as much or don't clean as deep don't notice that. So the janitors are the number one person that we can go to and get their buy-in. 1, 2, they know what to expect. And 3, how can we make, because some of our schools, we have openings for janitors that have never been filled. I can't lose a janitor and I can't hire more janitors. So I shouldn't say Dr. Driscoll, these people, I don't do any of that. I need to rephrase myself. I don't want to lose anybody over having to do extra work that they're already doing a couple other people's jobs. So if we can include that somehow, that's probably not a you thing, that's probably an us thing. I would like them considered in this talk. And then I would love to go and see the school that you referred to in action. And I appreciate it. I know this sucked. It's probably the longest meeting you guys have ever been to, and I appreciate you spending the time with us and standing up. You won't have to work out as much tomorrow. But I'm spending my neighbor's money. And I need to know that I'm a good steward of it and that this school, I want to be 80 years old and go see kids at a play there and say, I'm still so proud of this, right? That's our legacy. So I appreciate you spending the time with us. I know it's been really long, and I know we've been kind of nitpicking, and Mosley I love the kids too, so I want to put that out there. That was a really good comment. I think that though that we can continue to learn, and I appreciate you being so kind, and when you leave you can say bad things about us, but thanks for not saying it now.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate your time tonight.
6.01, open call to the public. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Seeing no blue cards, we will continue to the next agenda item. Item 7.01, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of guaranteed maximum price number 2 for Connolly Middle School and Curry Elementary School rebuild. Do I have a motion?
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the GMP amount number 2 for Curry and Conley Middle Schools.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's open for discussion. All those in favor? Oh, Mrs. Windsor.
I want to just say I appreciate all the patience you exercised. I believe I had enough answers to my questions that I would feel comfortable moving forward with this. And I also appreciate that they're open to discussing other alternatives within the price if that's what the district would like to do. Thank you.
Seeing no more discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion passes. They're like, oh, God. I don't even know if you want it to pass at this point. They're going to leave us. No. Thank you, everyone in this room who's not totally connected all the way to all of this. I appreciate your time in dealing with this. 8.01, student activity report for October 2025. Do I have any questions or comments? There's no vote on this, so if there's none, we'll continue. 9.01, board information. Mrs. Windsor, Mr. Miller, Mr. Lemon.
Thank you, Madam President. I really enjoyed going to the mayor's, or the 27th annual City of Tempe Mayor's State of the City, or whatever, and he explained a lot of things. But what was important to me, not that he talked for 90 minutes, but that he talked about education, and he talked about not just K-12, he talked about P-20. And I thought that was a great comment to all the business people that were there. And the City of Tempe supports our preschool programs and things like that. And so I'm encouraged that we're going to continue to have a good partnership with the city as well as the other people. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Windsor?
Thank you. I apologize. I just wanted to know I think we're about year 2.5 for the community eligibility program. Is that what the acronym is? CEP? Could we get a presentation on that, see where we're at?
We have that in our notes because I think you asked last time, so we gave you this one.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Thierry? Okay. Track meet was awesome. Great job. Fast kids. I'm impressed. Beautiful day. Broadmoor Choir, beautiful, lovely. They do have risers, so I was able to see them. Spricali had a color run, and it was very colorful. And I still have color in my shower that I'll always be reminded of it. And it was awesome. And kudos to the PTA. These PTA parents that put on this stuff at every single one of these schools so that our teachers can have supplies and extra books. And people don't realize it's like another job, and they're not getting paid. And I'm appreciative of all that they do. And the kids had so much fun. And I had fun watching that. McCamey Open House, kudos to all those teachers who stayed, who don't get paid for that time either, and shined and represented our district well. And thank you to the community and to the students who could be middle schoolers from not just in our area, but from all around. Thank you for coming just to check it out. That's all we ask. Just come see what we've got to offer. We have A schools, we have great music programs, theater programs, science programs, IB programs, traditional academies. We've got it. We have school choice. But I can tell you that, but if you don't come and see it, then you really don't know. And I just want to thank people for giving us the chance. And it was full. And so kudos to everyone at McCamey who was there and was just so proud of what we have to offer. It's a big and awesome event. And that's it. So, did you have something? Anybody else have anything? Yeah, and I agree with Jim. Thank you, Tempe, for getting it. Kids first. Kids first. Kids first. That's our future. And if you want to build a town and you want to have infrastructure and you want to have jobs come, kids first. The Aspire Academy at Connolly Open House is Thursday, December 4th, 2025, from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Connolly Middle School. That's at 2002 East Concordia Drive in Tempe, Arizona. The Ward Traditional Academy Open House is Tuesday, December 9th, 2025, from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Ward Traditional Academy, which is 1965 East Hermosa Drive in Tempe, Arizona. The Meyer Montessori Open House is Wednesday, December 10th, 2025, from 5:30 to 7 p.m. at Meyer Montessori, which is 2615 East Dorsey Lane in Tempe, Arizona. The next regularly scheduled governing board meeting is Wednesday, December 17th at 7 p.m. The ASBA 68th Annual Conference will be December 17th through the 19th, 2025 at the JW Marriott Desert Ridge, 5350 East Marriott Drive in Phoenix, Arizona, 85054. Winter break will begin December 22nd, 2025. School will resume on Tuesday, January 6th, 2026. And the Tempe Elementary Love Your Heart 5K, sponsored by TEEA, will be held Saturday, February 14th, 2026 at 8 a.m. at the Kiwanis Park, 5500 South Mill Avenue in Tempe, Arizona. Item 11.01. Do I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any nays? Thank you all, and have a great night, and be safe.